Hey, everybody, welcome back for another episode of The Overlay, a poker podcast brought to you by CCG Poker. I'm here today in the beautiful Chicago. It's 13 degrees outside. I'm cold everywhere. And I'm also on a podcast with my best co-hostess, Brandon. What's up, Brando?
What up? What up? You know, it's that time of the winter where, like, the trees are all bare. It just looks cold outside.
And
a little bit of ice or a little snow.
Yeah,
It's
it's still new. Like 2 weeks ago, I played golf and it was fine.
Yep.
I mean, it was like 40s, and it got cold at the end, and I definitely rethought some of my decisions at that point on like hole 15. But you're not a real golfer if you haven't regretted going and doing something halfway through your round. It's kind of like poker. You're not really playing poker if you don't get halfway through like a street and go, shit, I probably shouldn't have done that. I should have done something. Yep. I shouldn't have bet there. I should have tried to hit underneath that tree. There was no chance I was getting out of there.
I don't know what I was thinking.
I don't know why I did that. I went for the hero shot, and the hero shot for me never works out. I do not have a poker story where I go, totally made the hero call, and it worked, and I won the tournament, and it was amazing, and champagne fell from the ceiling. Nah, it's normally more like, I call. What do you got? I have a king high, and the other guy's like, yeah, I got a nut full house. Like shit.
And then in your mind you justify it like, well, it was a full house or nothing, so
50-50.
I was kind of right.
I was 50-50. I'm either right or I'm wrong. There's every poker odds battles down to just 50-50, which we're going to get into the episode. Really, we're getting good at this, Brandon. We're getting into this thing fast because 50-50 are your odds. You don't need a solver because everything in poker boils down to you either hit or you don't. A or B, 50-50, one way or the other. Flip a coin. You're either in or you're out. But the news this week, I think it was December 1st. Today's the 6th. So earlier this week, the WSOP Paradise in the Bahamas is starting, which actually sounds really quite nice after the cold weather we've been having here in the Midwest. But with the WSOP Paradise, I guess it's the first WSOP of 2025. Nope, that's not right because it's still 2024. They're just doing 2025 rules changes? Or just deciding?
Sounds fair.
I mean,
in Bahamas, it's
close.
It's
yeah,
closer.
with like the time change, it's closer to 2025. Rules changed. And actually, this got a lot of wax on the CCG social media. But the rules change refers to what we just talked about, charts, apps, and any other form of electronic assistance in the tournament room. Now, the players have never been able to use those things, but the rule has been updated and changed now to kind of coincide with WSOP main event final table debacle / fiasco.
Debacle's a great word.
Whatever it was, laptop gate, the other laptop gate. We won't mention the first laptop gate. Not gate. Woo. Here we go. Players and spectators, this is the rule, by the way. Players and spectators are not allowed to use charts, apps, or any other form of electronic assistance in the tournament room. Failure to adhere to this policy will result in a penalty up to disqualification for the player and removal from the tournament room for the spectator. This is now, again, going to deal directly with the spectators because they they already had this rule in place for the players. But I guess a side gray area was that, well, if my buddy has it and I go and talk to him, and even though I'm not looking at the app or the charts or the whatevers, what are they called? Solvers?
Solvers, correct.
Even if I'm not looking at the solvers, particularly, it would be like if Brandon made the final table and he entrusted me to look at the solvers, which, may I say, is not something you should ever do.
I'm not sure what's more likely, me making the final table or asking you to help with solvers.
Well, originally when I was going to make that analogy, I was going to be like, if I made the final table, but I thought that would be too much of a humble brag. So I was like, that's not likely. But neither is you asking me for advice on the sidelines. So, like, this is just a fantasy land that we're talking about anyways, where either one of us is in the realm of possibility. But anyways, I'm riding my unicorn in fucking Bally's and show up at the final table with Brandon, who's at the final table with Phil Hellmuth, fucking Doyle Brunson, and Slim Shady. I don't even know. I was thinking of the other guy. Amarillo Slim. Boom. Got there. Anyways. the rule that they were kind of bending was that the player was going to a spectator, somebody on the rail, and the person
just talking to him,
just
and even
talking
though that
and
person
saying,
was using,
"Oh, what do you think about this hand number 37 that I played? How was that? What did the?" And then they're looking at the stream and kind of, again, it is a 30-minute lag. So there's the whole debate of like, how much information are you really gathering that will affect like the real time play? It's not like in real time he's got the solver in front of him. It's in retrospect, which again, it's beneficial. How beneficial? I don't really know, and I don't even know if we want to argue that point. Do we, Brandon?
Yeah, it's tough. I don't know. It's marginal to marginal at best. It's somewhere. There's some gain.
It's
whether that's enough to win or lose the tournament, you'll never know.
Yeah. I think you're right. There's some gain.
There's got to be some gain from knowing if you did something right or wrong in the past. But like how much that pertains to the future hands, we'll never know.
Yeah.
Sometimes it might matter a lot. Sometimes it might not matter at all.
I mean, and then the likelihood of like the exact same scenario coming up again, and then you
right when you're playing heads up for 70 total hands, it's like
right. I mean, like again, it's like, oh, I don't know. We're kind of grasping at straws a little bit in my mind.
Erring on the side of caution, it seems better.
Well, the internet
just let it be a free for all.
Yeah, I mean, the internet exploded with this, right? Like they were
Correct.
all over this.
They clearly had to do something.
I agree. I mean, it's not like you could just, I don't think it was as big a deal as they made it out to be. However, I also can see like from an organizer stance looking in, going, yeah, we don't really want any of that, regardless of if I actually think it's beneficial. It doesn't matter. It's just the perceived negative feedback is way too high, right?
For sure. It's like, the Bears after Thanksgiving. Something had to happen. Whether or not you want to blame the coach or not, or how much the coach had to affect.
Did Eberflus, what's his name?
Eberflus?
Hey, get a different name if you're a coach. You should have just gone by like Eber House or something, so like it sounds cooler. Not
or just Flus.
Flusy, right? The Flus. He gave like a press conference on Friday morning, and he's like, I'm confident that I'm going to continue the season and the Bears are going to turn it around, and then he got fired like 2 hours later.
Correct.
That's a bad beat. Bad beat of the week. Eberflus.
It might have been an hour later, to be honest.
It's no better.
I'm pretty sure I read that article on the way to Black Friday CCG, and Ryan showed it to me on his phone while we were setting up.
In that particular instance, if Eberflus was watching game tapes of like the day before, I don't think it would have affected his decisions moving forward about getting fired the next day.
I don't either.
In that case, the solver didn't do shit.
Correct.
Oh boy, Eberflus, poor guy. He's probably coaching JV fucking.
You can't, poor guy. He's making $20,000 a day for the next 2 years to sit at home.
Oh yeah, I'd like to.
In his Winnetka mansion or wherever. I mean, you're gonna pay $20,000 a day. Shave your beard, move to Florida.
You know what?
Live your life.
I think we just broke the code. This is why the Bears are so bad. They make such bad decisions. Hey, let's pay a kind of guy who's not like, I don't know,
proven or anything, a bunch of money.
They were since Lovie Smith. I don't know how we ended up on the Bears football GTO, but let's get into it.
Let's get into it.
Since Lovie, who I was never a fan of Lovie when he was at like the Bears coach. I wasn't. Although he did take him to a Super Bowl.
But now you miss him and you take him back in a heartbeat.
When you look at it, it's like, wait, they fired him and the Bears were like 10-6?
10-6. And like,
what?
Yeah, made the playoffs, I think.
They did. I think that was the year that they missed a field goal to like, sounds like the Bears. They did something stupid at the very end of the game to fuck it up. There you go. It's what they should be called. The last second fuck ups. Hey, welcome to Chicago. The last second fuck ups. Our mascot is the Noid from Domino's, who I think also got fired. They were going through it, and they were going through all the coaches after Lovie Smith, and it was like, wow, how awful, not awful, or whatever, how funny to think about that the Bears peaked on coaches with Lovie Smith. They fired him for no reason, and then it has been like a Babe Ruth type Boston Red Sox curse of coaches since. And then we got to pay that guy's contract out. I say we like we have anything to do with it, but like the Bears organization has like it's just I don't get it. Like, are you really
that contract's guaranteed?
right? Which I understand.
That contract's
like,
guaranteed.
That's what contracts are for. But like in the same token, it's like, really, like what? Then just keep him and tell him to do something different. Demote him to like offensive coordinator and let the offensive coordinator move up to head coach. Oh wait, they fired him 2 weeks ago.
We fired him too.
Let the defensive. You know what? Let's let special teams come up. Fucking pick a fan out of the last second fuck up stadium.com and just bring one of them out and just like, you know what? Let Brandon and I do it for a day. We'll just podcast
I can do
the
a
whole
better
thing.
job for sure.
I couldn't do worse. I could not do worse. I don't know anything about football. And to this point in my life,
but
I have
to call a timeout.
I have small children, and I think football now is both soccer and football. That's how bad football has gotten in the state of Illinois. Is that when I think of football, the first thing that pops into my head is freaking soccer. Who's the dude from Miami?
Messi.
Yeah, I think Messi. I can't remember his name. It's not obviously not that important.
Lionel Messi. Yeah.
Back to poker and GTO.
All right, back to GTO. I think it's a good rule overall.
I do. I like
to do something.
It makes it more specific, and it's the good and the bad thing about poker rules. I love how it says up to disqualification. Like, in all honesty, they're not going to disqualify somebody from the final table of a WSOP main-ish type event, like a WSOP
on
Paradise.
Their first offense.
It's not going to happen. So it's like, I get the rule, and then I also get on there, but I feel like the idea of like up to disqualification, it's kind of like when they have laws for like speeding or any laws, you know, it's like up to 5 years in jail. Like if you pirate a movie from Disney, could be up to 5 years in prison and a $250,000 fine. But most people get off with a whack unless you're selling out 80 million DVDs on the internet. You know what I mean? Like, it's the severity of it, I guess, but I don't understand. I don't understand. Excuse me. I don't understand the idea of like, couldn't it just be like first offense, straight up like 20-hand penalty? Not even a warning.
Just more definite rules, and especially because like that rule then just like makes it rather inconsistent across the board depending on your tournament director. Right? I mean, you have a cop that enforces the law way differently in California than he does in Illinois. It's like there's going to be it's CCG. If it happens, I'm never kicking a guy out on the first time.
No,
but maybe another TD somewhere else is like, oh, that's cheating. Get the F out. You know, I mean,
and how do they actually
we're both
enforce
abiding
that?
by the same rules, right?
And I get it.
That's
and
the
like,
problem.
It's like where the solution starts to become a problem as well, which is why I don't like the ambiguity of up to disqualification. Like, I get it. Like, obviously, if I'm at the table looking on my phone in the middle of a hand going, hang on, let me check my solver, maybe that's grounds for disqualification. But 99% of the times, they're just going to go, yo, you can't do that. Put that away. Okay, sorry. And then you just go on, right? Like, I don't like the idea of like, kind of gives you a players that want to angle shoot. It gives them a way to kind of angle, push the envelope more. Ugh.
For sure, like get a little wedge in there and make a little noise.
Players that are players that are likely to become that kind of angle and envelope pusher to rules. I feel like they're going to do that anyways, and this does give them a little bit more room to push the envelope, where if you just said first offense, 20-hand penalty, which most people, like at a final table, that would be pretty detrimental, you know? Would be it would be a significant deterrent to doing it. And then, like, if you were dumb enough to get caught again, then it's disqualification. Like, done. No warning. Start with 20-hand penalty, bigger than just I'm not even saying a 10. I'm going even bigger than a 10-hand penalty, like a 20-hand penalty. Oh, yeah,
for sure.
Like, it's even bigger than, like, the normal penalty, because typically it goes official warning, 10-hand penalty, and then DQ. Like, that's the normal 3 strikes. On the third strike, you're out. 3 strikes and you're out.
Yeah, and this is going straight to 20-hand on first.
This is like, this is wiffle ball rules, man. You start 1-1. 1 strike, 1 ball. That's it. Get up there. Speed this game up. My only complaint is it should have a little bit more specific ruling rather than leaving it up to the poor tournament director. It's like you're kind of throwing him to the wolves where he's damned if he does and he's damned if he doesn't. What if they gave that guy at the final table, let's say this rule was in place and they did it, and he just gives him a warning? Then the internet explodes and goes, how do you just give that guy a warning? And then flip
then when
side,
he kicks him out, they say,
how do you kick him out?
Kick him out for $10 million.
Right. And if he's just DQ'd, like he gets third place, or he's DQ'd, he doesn't get any money? I don't even know what that ruling is. If you get DQ'd and you're in the money, do you just get the next place money?
This is a great question.
Or are you just out?
I have no idea.
That
but
money
I would
goes to
assume
charity?
that you would get third place money.
The TD director gets to keep it? I don't know. There's a free roll that starts.
If that's the case, I'm DQing people all the
right.
time.
Pew, pew, pew. You're out. You're out. You're out. You're out. Bam. I just won $84 million in the World Series of Poker. How did you do that, sir? I disqualified everybody. It's kind of awesome, actually. Please, that could be our next screenplay, Brandon. The WSOP TD heist.
Yes.
Cancel everybody.
In.
And I mean, cancel culture is a huge thing now anyways. Besides the spectators being added in on this solver problem, there are a few other new rules that I believe, the way the article is written on pokernews.com by some person, John Sofen, blah, blah, blah. There are a few, here we go. There are a few other additional new rules for the series in the Bahamas, including banning electronic devices at the table altogether when a tournament is down to 3 tables. Players are also not permitted to place their cell phones or any electronic devices on the table or table rail during play. I don't feel like they had to say table or table rail. Like, what other rail were they referring to? Like, you can't go outside and put it on the Amtrak trains? Like, it seems like they could have just said rail there. But anyways, 2 additional changes to the rules. 1, when they get down to 3 tables, which is an arbitrary number. I don't know why they said 3 tables. It should be a percentage of play. Like,
maybe it's when they do a redraw or they go to camera tables or something.
I hate when you say something that makes perfect sense, and I didn't even consider that in a second. And that's like 100%.
I mean, maybe it could be. I mean, I don't know. That seems like they would redraw around 27.
That seems really logical. Hey, we redraw at 27 players. Also, once you redraw and get to your new seat, you can't use your phone anymore. Can't use an iPad. Walkmans are no longer even viable. There is a person, I hope he listens to the podcast. I will not give out your name, sir. He does use like a old school iPod mini. I was like, bro, how do you even download songs onto that thing? He's like,
is iTunes even a...
He's like, I haven't added or changed or plugged this thing into a computer in like 10 years, but it still has all the music on there. It still works. The battery's pretty solid. He's like, I like it because it keeps you from actually looking at your phone. But even that beautiful iPad mini would not be allowed per the rules of no electronics at the table when you get down to the final 27 players of a tournament. What do you think about that?
So there's no music, no headphones.
No headphones, no music, nope. Yeah, I mean, it says including banning electronic devices.
Okay.
Anything electric would be out there. Pacemakers, those things that test insulin. I think maybe they should have left those in, but
yeah, left some exceptions. But
I hope somebody gets qualified for a pacemaker at the final table of the WSOP this year. I mean, obviously it's about phones. I'm torn about this. I think it's. I mean, I understand the reason for it is that people believe and cheaters, man. They're some of the smartest people on earth, and I feel like, if cheaters would use their abilities to try
gifts
to improve
and real other things.
Yeah, improve rather than find a way to find
finagle.
Yeah, just it's wild, But then it's like, on the flip side, people are so fucking smart that you know what? Instead of using their phone, I mean, they'll just use like a pen or like a ring or I don't know, hide a camera up
some
their
other
sleeves.
accessory.
Yeah, then it's like, what are we going to... I mean, at some point, what are you going to do? You're going to force people to play the final table naked? And then x-ray everybody to make sure they're not hiding anything inside their person? I don't know. I mean, I get it. Phones are a dangerous thing. I feel like you should be able to have your phone, and I get the idea of not putting it on the table anywhere. That's fine. And if you're in the hand, like, you can't be looking at your cards and then look at your phone. Like, again, make the penalties more severe. I don't know. What do you think? Banning it completely.
Yeah, I mean, I don't love it. I don't love it.
I
mean, it is poker in its most natural form. I mean, 1960s, it was just a bunch of dudes hanging out, staring at each other. And
1990s.
Smoking cigarettes.
Right.
Yeah, you're right. I was just going back.
You know what? Yeah. That's the linchpin right there. You can ban phones, but give us smoking back.
Give us smoking
right.
back.
Let people smoke.
Remember when Harrington had like the two fans? Yeah. Like, he had a fan on each side of his chip stack to like keep
blowing it away from him. Yeah. I remember.
That's awesome.
I remember in my 20s playing at the Mirage, playing like 1-2 or 2-5 no limit, and the poker room was like out on the floor, but it was like this little half wall that covered up. It was like by one of the entrances. It was a great room. It was super fun. And I remember like leaning over this half wall by the ashtray, smoking, putting it down on the ashtray, running back to the table to check my cards, folding, and then running back to finish the cigarette. God, that was wild times. 2002. And again, phones, I didn't have my cell phone. The best thing you could do on your phone at the table at that point was Snake.
Play Snake?
Yeah. Yep. Snake and listen to your iPod, which some people are still doing to this day.
But overall, I see why they did it, but I don't love it. And you're right. Where does it stop?
Well, and again, I understand doing it for the WSOP.
It's the final 27, though, also.
Is this going to be for, like, all tournaments, or is there, like, a dollar amount that this is effective for? Because, like, the main event, I understand doing it at 27 players. Although, even then, the money's not that wildly crazy, which is weird to think about. If you get in the top 27 of the main event, what is that paying out?
I mean, it's pretty good.
Like six figures, but bottom six figures?
Oh, yeah. Into the six figures for sure. Definitely. Like over 250K.
But then what I don't want to see happen is have that work its way down to, say, the circuit events at Hammond, where 27th place is like $4,000, and they're going, you can't use your cell phones at the table.
Yeah, and 27th place in a lot of other tournaments is not even in the money.
Or it might not be, right. And then, I mean, again, and I'm going main event circuit, which is like a step below these bigger ones. Like, I don't even really want to play in Vegas at the main event, or at the WSOP, play like a $1,500 PLO tournament, and then they're going to tell me when we get down to 27, I'll implode. I can't go that long without looking at my phone. It's impossible.
You need a slew of fidget spinners to keep you
right. I'd have to bring like a comic book or something, some action figures to play with at the table. Be the first guy to win a bracelet with like G.I. Joe figures on the table playing. Some new rules.
But yeah, I don't know if it kept it to main events or kept it to dollar amounts, 10Ks plus.
I think 10Ks plus. Something. Yeah, I would. I don't.
5Ks
at
plus?
least then.
There's not that many 5Ks, but
again, it's like the definitive,
the normal,
without having like an actual like dollar, like okay, from now, is the early bird going to have 3 tables, and they're going to be like, we should do it just like the main event, not that early bird players sound like that, but are we going to do
you would want it to keep it like out of the general mainstream poker world. You'd have to be in a highly specific situation.
Feel like
large amounts of money,
or make a dollar amount. Like again, if that dollar amount is the buy-in, or if that dollar amount is the prize pool, meaning if the prize pool gets over X amount of dollars, then it goes to 27. If the prize pool is at this amount of dollars, it's the top 18 players, the final 2 tables. If it's the main, because I could see like the WSOP circuit event being down to the final table and going, okay, now we're going to implement this electronics ban.
Yeah, right. The final right. It's tough where to draw all those lines.
To me, my line, yeah. Again, I'm giving it a very quick once over, but then again, it's like early bird. A $20 charity poker tournament. I don't think there's a line anywhere in there that happens. Although maybe we should, and I say we as in tournament directors in general should probably enforce a little bit better the cell phone rules in general. I see it a lot where people are mid-hands just scrolling, and I can see what they're scrolling. They're scrolling TikTok. They're scrolling Facebook. They're scrolling Twitter. They're looking at their email. They're not on solvers. They're not texting the person across from them that's their partner in crime. Like, none of that's happening. The idea is this, that somebody could be cheating. The person's just got ADHD.
They're just scrolling because they
got nothing else to do. Right. They're either waiting to fold or waiting to... It doesn't matter. They have to span that 35 seconds from one end of the table to the next by scrolling 3 TikTok videos, and I have fallen into that myself.
For sure. Me too. I'm not disagreeing. Yeah.
Right. I'm not going to... I won't say I've never done that, but I just don't think that a ban...
I played... Yeah.
I think it should be better written in the sense of...
I agree. Yeah, if they went through and writ it out and wrote it out and, gave definitive... Well, like you said, definitive prize pool amounts, definitive buy-in amounts, label it all out, then everybody knows where they're at going into it, and it doesn't seem so.
I think the poker rules in general have a tendency to become very non-descriptive, and they should be written much more descriptive. Hey, this is not...
For sure. I would love it if there was now penalties that were assigned. Because then everybody would know the rules, they'd read the rules, and then it'd be like, oh, they ruled it differently somewhere else. Well, it's the same rule.
Right.
It's just a different ruling.
Right. It's a different penalty.
It's a different penalty. Yeah.
The judge decided to...
differently.
Right. The judge decided to give you more jail time for the exact same crime than it did to that person. That doesn't seem fair.
But it's still the same.
It's not fair. Right. It's just, that's how it worked out.
That's the way the rules are written.
Seems shitty. Seems like it should not be like that. You do a speeding ticket, you get caught doing 100 miles an hour and a 55, bam, 30 days in jail. No ifs, ands, or goes. No, not up to. Just boom. That's what it is. Maybe that would help people from doing the crimes that you were caught doing, or not. Who knows?
I mean, there's mandatory minimums on crimes. There should be mandatory minimums on poker rules.
Right. Here we go.
Break this rule. The minimum is this, not the maximum. How about the minimum?
All right, speaking of the WSOP Paradise in the Bahamas, they've got two different tournaments that we wanted to talk about today as well. There's a $500,000 buy-in, Brandon, is this correct?
Yep. Invite-only Triton Invitational. So now this is, I'm assuming, I don't know much about it, I'm not too read up on it, but I'm assuming this is like a Triton-sponsored event, which Triton is in Macau, I believe.
Yes. I also
so Triton sponsored events at the WSOP. Invite only.
So they're working together.
Guys.
Little cross promotion.
Yeah, they're working together. And I'm assuming that, the Triton has all the businessmen that, all these super rich Chinese guys and business owners that play in the Triton events. And now they have been hand selected by Triton Czar, whoever's running this thing, and now they're each allowed to pick a pro to invite. So Phil Ivy's been invited, Negreanu's been invited, a host of other, well-liked pros have been invited, and the same way there's been some, pros that are getting some shit because they're not invited.
Right.
Like Justin Bonomo, he's getting trolled all over Twitter. He's like one of the most, biggest crushers of all time. But he doesn't talk. He's not in the inner circles. He's not good for the game. He doesn't bring to the table. Right. Exactly what the, is he a great player? Yeah. Does he give money to charity? Yeah. Is he a fine guy? Yeah, sure. But like these business guys are hand selecting 20 or 30 or however many pros, 50 or whatever the number is. Like doesn't make the cut. Business guys want to play with Phil Ivey because he's cool, or Negreanu because he's going to vlog and be funny,
right?
Or what he thinks is funny, and
just
he'll be lively. And he's one of those guys, Greek John and Negreanu kind of seem like they come off as they're loosey goosey eating a sandwich, but really they're just entertaining everybody around them while they crush them.
Yeah.
It's kind of great.
Vinny said it best. Your job is not to win pots. Your job is to entertain the fish.
Yep.
That's it. Your job.
You
Poker
keep them
pro's
coming
job
back,
is right.
you're
Entertain
rich.
the fish. You can win. It's not enough to be a winning poker player. You also have to be a winning poker player that's perceived as a bad poker player who is tons of fun to play with, not an unbeatable nit that is unenjoyable to lose your money to. I don't mind losing my
and
money.
You hate it every single time.
Right. I want to lose my money to somebody fun. I was very fun at Texas Card House for one day. People loved me.
Right.
They still talk about
People didn't mind losing. Yeah. People didn't mind losing their money to you. Probably.
The high-haired rich man from Chicago. None of that's true, but it was great. I think
I thought it was.
I think I had one guy convinced. Right. He's like a doctor or something. I don't know. Brain surgeon.
Oh, dude, yeah. He took his private jet here. You know, it's just having fun.
I had my Lamborghini shipped down the Mississippi to here. That doesn't even connect. So what? It's a story.
So what?
I took a freaking one of those Tesla spaceships. What do they call it? SpaceX?
Yeah, SpaceX. We rented a helicopter.
There you go. Took a space helicopter. You got to entertain the fish, which I think is fun, but also kind of an odd concept for a tournament. It would be like if I thought I was a decent, I think I'm a decent golfer, and then be like, all right, here's a super uber rich guy tournament, but we want you to invite really, 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 really good golfers to play in your tournament, like Tiger Woods and Dustin Johnson, Phil Mickelson, because they're fun to play with. Their characters, people want to be around them. It's like, but wait, they're playing in the same tournament that I'm playing in?
They're playing in the same tournament as you.
Hold on. There's not like a pro and amateur division? Like, I don't get a piece of it if I nominate Tiger Woods to play in my golf tournament and he wins. Do I get anything? No?
No.
Well, fuck him. I ain't inviting Tiger Woods. I invite Bill Nye, the golf guy. That guy doesn't even play golf. He's a science guy.
Interesting concept, but I mean,
it's cool.
It's
great TV.
The main attraction there is the 25K super main event.
Yes, which it is apparently breaking some records, or they're trying to break some records. I think the current is it called the WPT World Championship?
No, that's
they
the
did
other
one that had
okay.
That's now I understand. Tournament Poker saw its largest guarantee event last December in 23 at the Win with the WPT World Championship. It was a 40 million guarantee.
Right, but that was only a 10K buy-in.
Not to be one-upped, the WSOP has now decided, well, we're going to do our own $50 million, but they did it with a 25K buy-in. But, Brando,
Correct.
Tell us what the silver lining is with GG Poker purchasing the WSOP and why, for the average Joe, why is that a good thing?
Because now you have access to these huge 25K prize pools for probably $2.50 super qualifiers on GG. And you can take a time machine back to 2003, and you've got all these people on Full Tilt qualifying for super cheap going into the main event at the World Series of Poker. And that's what ultimately blew up poker in the first place.
Yeah.
Was the implementation of
online satellites.
All these
pennies.
average guys online satellites for pennies getting in and just making these fields huge. And now they're kind of able to do that again with GG and WSOP.
And I mean, let's be honest. You and I are probably in the realm of poker players, pretty diehard poker players. Even me. I know I don't play as often as I want to, but I still follow the game. I listen to things. Obviously, we have a podcast about poker, so I'm very much in and around the game all the time. And even people like you and I don't even really consider playing the WSOP. That's like a once-in-a-lifetime thing for me that I would like to do, but I haven't done yet. And it's like, would that be cool? Yeah. Am I going to do it each and every year, multiple times a year at different spots of the WSOP? Certainly not. So take somebody like us that plays all the time, and that's not even in the realm of normal possibility of tournaments we want to play in, which is why having the ability to play in I remember in the old days. I remember the old days walking uphill both ways to a library to log into Full Tilt Poker so I can play, a 10-cent Super X to the 10th power satellite that you play in, and then you just keep moving up the satellites until you get in. Shit, sometimes you would even play $5 tournaments where first place was a seat. That was like the only prize. It seemed like a pipe dream, but it's a hell of a lot more fun spending my $5 on that than ripping it all in with blindly playing 10 cents, 20 cents with some random bobbleheaded guy in Full Tilt.
I mean, if you told me today, I would be playing $11 and $33 and 109s and whatever,
like a
trying
lot
to get into these tournaments,
like a lot
nightly.
I'd be playing it a lot. Like that would be awesome. Like I would definitely do that.
That would be me playing poker. Like I wouldn't go to the casino. I would spend
I'd be grinding
$4,000 grinding, just trying to bang a 25K seat.
Right.
And that sounds fun.
It does. In all honesty, I love
it really does.
I did love the fact of the convenience of playing at home. And this is before smartphones. Like I can't even imagine now if you had like a Full Tilt type, the online poker of old days. And I mean like early 2000s, what is truly the Wild West, and having the ability to play on my phone anywhere, I'd have got nothing done. Nothing. You know how awkward it was to try to bring your laptop somewhere and then play a tournament that you're still in, like on your laptop versus like just being
anywhere. Even if you were in Starbucks or anywhere with the internet, they were like, "What are you doing?" It's like,
it's weird.
Leave me alone. I'm all in. Yeah, I couldn't imagine it just walking around on your cell phone, scrolling through. Oh, I'm gonna play this whatever $33.
And
whatever.
Again,
qualifier to a 333,
and it had like thousands and thousands of players, like the Sunday Millions on PokerStars.
Yeah,
in the
$215
in the aughts, the 2000s. Do you ever use that term, aughts? Like 2008,
I don't.
2009. I do it because I think it's mildly ridiculous, but I do like when people say it, thinking, really? Aught 8? I don't think it's 2008, buddy, but that's fine. I mean, Sunday Millions got like thousands of people. Like it was a sick.
Well, if you think about it, it was
tournament.
a $200 buy-in. It was a $200 buy-in, $1 million guaranteed. That means they needed 5,000 people to hit the guarantee.
And they got it all. It's not like there was ever an overlay. Hey, overlay.
Nope. Never an overlay.
Didn't need a podcast called The Overlay back then. It would have been called the No Overlay Podcast because that shit hit every single week. It was nuts. House rules. I'm going to close out with some house rules, Brando.
Yeah,
since this is
one in particular.
This is kind of a rules centric podcast for today. And Brandon's like, we should really talk about specific house rules because there's really the TDA set of rules. There's the WSOP, which has its own basis of rules, which is slightly different than the TDA, Tournament Directors Association. But then you get down to house rules, and what are a few ones that come up very often?
The big blind ante discrepancy of if it's ante first or big blind first. If you only have enough chips for one of those, you don't have enough chips to do what gets paid first, right. The ante or your big blind.
And originally, when the WSOP first came out with the big blind ante structure, it was always the ante was paid first. But then the poker world did what it does and bitched and moaned until it got changed, and then it got changed to what?
Then it got changed to big blind first, ante second.
Which I don't understand. I
don't either.
Because in the old days, when you had an ante where each person individually anteed, which was a pain in the ass, it slowed down the game. And it cost you roughly the same. I think the convenience is worth whatever extra price I'm paying by doing the big blind all at once, meaning big blind and the ante all together. You always paid your ante first. It was ante and then blinds. It never, and then I don't know why it all of a sudden when they streamlined the process by just saying, hey, one player is going to pay all of the players' antes at the time. It's like, and then you get however many free hands until it's the next time for you to pay. I just don't see how that's right.
Seems like you would get to free roll all the antes. Then when it's your turn to put in the ante, say, I don't want to put in the ante. I want to put in my big one.
Just because I lost all my money? That doesn't seem fair. I don't particularly like it, which is why house rules CCG.
We kept it this original way.
CCG Poker, Chicagoland's #1 live charity poker experience. They keep it the same. It's still ante first. You pay your ante first. Here's the biggest rule that I take from this. It doesn't really matter if it's ante first or big blind first. What matters is don't get yourself in the situation where you have to figure out which one you have to pay first and you cannot afford to pay both. It's just a bad situation to be in anyways.
Like the only way it's acceptable is if you were under the gun and you lost all your chips for one big blind.
You're right. And you're down to your last chip. At that point, who gives a shit what I pay first? I don't care.
Right.
I'm out. The problem with paying the ante first is that if you manage to survive that position, you only get your ante chip back, meaning you can't actually win anything.
Any chips.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's a 4 or 5 way all in where they just limp around.
You're
and
screwed.
instead of 5xing,
right.
You now have to beat 5 hands
to
4 hands
to be able to do it again the next hand.
To be able to do it again.
Right. It's like, oh, this seems like a game from the movie Saw. Well, I have a game for you to play. Let's try to beat 5 players and you will not win any chips. Oh, you don't even get to survive.
Then after you do that,
right? Yeah. It's like the poker version of a Hostel movie. That was a terrible movie, by the way. Did you ever see that Hostel? Whew. Don't watch it. If you've seen it, you know what I'm talking about. If you haven't seen it, say your prayers tonight that you were able to not see that movie because I can't unsee it, and it was awful.
I wonder what you think.
I went on a date to that movie. Good God, I never talked to that girl again. Whew.
You're talking about the eyeball.
Just in general. There was
or the Achilles, all of it. Blowtorch.
This just went from explicit podcast to like we're going to get blacklisted, which would actually be kind of cool.
All right. That's the main house rule. I mean, the other one is the limit rule, right?
Yeah.
We've been doing a lot of mixed game series.
Yep. I also think mixed games are becoming more popular in general. I think more people are playing mixed games now than they have in the last 20-something years since
I think
Texas
that's
Hold'em
because Hold'em AI ruined Hold'em. You know, the solvers ruined Hold'em. So people love poker, but they don't want to play no one Hold'em anymore.
Yeah.
So now they're going back to the games that people don't have it solved on their cell phones.
Right.
Or like Sal says, it's all just made up.
Yeah,
to make us play worse.
It's going to be next week's episode, or the next episode will be Solvers, Conspiracy, or
reality.
Fact or fiction for the overlays. Believe it or not, solvers are actually just a prose version of tricking idiots that they need to buy charts from them. It's kind of ingenious idea if it is a conspiracy. I hope it's not. Heads up in a limit tournament. Typically, there are, in a limit tournament, Brandon, how many bets can a table make before you are capped? How many bets before a cap?
4 total.
So it's
bet and 3 raises?
Raise. That's the 4th bet, meaning it's a bet and 3 raises. That's it. So if the blinds are 50, 100, it would go, I guess, 100 to 200 to 300 to 400 cap. And then your option at that point is to either call up to the $400 or fold. You cannot raise again. However, when you get down to, at times, at least the old rules used to be, if you were heads up going into any street, going into the turn, going into the river, going into 5th Street, 6th Street, 7th, whatever the case may be, you have to be going into that round of betting heads up. There was no cap on the limit betting. Now, you still had to bet within the increments of the limit, but you could raise one another an indefinite amount of times until one of you was all in. Correct?
Correct.
No cap. And that doesn't mean that I'm lying, or it does mean that I'm lying. What does cap mean again?
Cap means you're lying, so no cap
means no lie. Oh, nice. No cap means you can't lie either. Millennials, Gen Zs, I don't know. I don't understand it. The WSOP, the TDA, they have changed this rule to now read that the only time that the no cap, the no limit to the number of bets that you can make in a limit tournament when you're heads up only refers to when the actual tournament is down to 2 players, meaning they're heads up, which is crazy to me. You got to wait all the way to the end. And at what point, why did it change at that point? Like if it's just two players left in the whole tournament, now they can bet as many times as they want into one another?
So my argument is 2 players left in the same tournament. I guess not. I retract my statement. I was going to say 2 people left in the same tournament is the same thing as 2 people heads up to start a street. But it's slightly different because it still affects other people.
Are they worried about chip dumping? Like if you and I bought into the same tournament, we get heads up on the first hand down to 7th Street in a stud tournament, and I just dump all my chips off to you until the very last end and go, oh, I only have $100 in chips in my 20K starting stack because I just raised 87 times in a row with my friend Brandon, and then go, oh, shit, I just realized you could have a straight flush, which beats my quads. I fold and not show my hand and give you all of my chips. Is that what the rule's protecting?
I don't know. I want to say that's
Seems
what
like
the players were arguing that it's protecting.
But to me, that's such a ridiculous, like it's such an odd, like if that situation happened, you know what you should do as a player immediately? What would you do, Brandon?
Ask the dealer to call the floor.
Yeah, floor. I wouldn't even ask the dealer. I would just yell floor. Sidebar. Did I ever tell you the time I played in a Magic tournament? Magic the Gathering tournament?
No.
I played in a Magic the Gathering tournament at the Odeum, which was awesome. This is like back when we were still doing charity poker at the Odeum before it got torn down. It's gone now. So I play in this Magic the Gathering tournament. And it kind of works like a poker tournament where there's a buy-in and there's a guaranteed prize pool. The guaranteed prize pool is like 5K. It was called the 5K Grand Prix or something. They had cool names for them. 5K guarantee. But it was like a Swiss tournament because like you play individual heads up matches and then you have to like do it, but they couldn't really do it like a bracket. So they do something called a Swiss tournament, which is kind of hard to understand. It's not a perfect system. But anyways, they play as many rounds they have to get to the top 8. Okay. And then once they get to the top 8, at that point you do like a bracket system, play down to there's one person. Super cool. I made it to the top 8. Super fluke, brand new player, didn't really know what I was doing, fuck my way into the top 8. There was like 200 people in this tournament. I did have a really good draws, and I had a really good deck, and da-da-da-da-da. I ended up getting 8th place, which is fine. I still cashed in the tournament, which was great. But then you go to like the losers bracket, and you could like play again because once you lose one, then it's down to 4, down 2, then there's the heads up match. Okay, so I'm playing, and the floor is called the judge. You can ask for a judge. So when 2 players are arguing with each other, going, I don't think that's how the rule works. And no, that's how it works. Well, let's call the judge. So you say judge, and then a judge comes over and they determine. No, the rule says that wizards can't actually cast spells on the third. Whatever it is, and they tell you what the rule is. If you are the person who called judge or in that scenario, and I go, I don't like the ruling the judge just made, you can appeal, and then the head judge comes over. And whatever the head judge says, he determines that's it. His word is law. When he rules, bam! It's like Judge Dredd in the like. That's it. Judge, jury, and executioner. Whatever he says, that's the final word of God. That's it. You're done. So the way it's supposed to work is you just like ask like a person walking around like, we need a judge here. Okay, hang on, we'll bring somebody over, and then a judge comes over. And then when you're with that judge, you go, you know what? I don't think that's right. I think it's wrong. So I would like to appeal that decision. Can you have the head judge come over? Ken, being me and the wonderful boisterous person that I am, what do you think I did when I wanted to appeal this ruling? I just fucking yelled, appeal! And like the whole room stops. Everybody looks over, and I'm standing at the table over, just yelling "appeal!" And then the guy's like, "Yeah, sir, that's not exactly how it works." And they all look like that nerd guy from The Simpsons. They're like, "Yes, that's not exactly how it works. Like, you have to call it. The head judge just doesn't come over when you yell appeal." I kind of feel like poker tournaments should work like that. There should be like a floor and then like a head floor, and the player is only allowed to yell appeal. Otherwise, just ask your dealer to go ahead and call the floor because players aren't really supposed to do it. But
yeah, no.
Back to the heads up rule. A house rule that we have at CCG is that the heads up rule still is in effect when 2 players go heads up, regardless of how many players are left in the tournament. If you go into a street or a betting round, heads up, it is unlimited. There's no cap on the amount of raises in a limit tournament. And again, if you see a situation where there's 27 raises between the two players, and then finally they go, you know what, I think I'm going to fold, and then they fold, that's like a huge red flag. Nobody's going to argue anything other than they're cheating and chip dumping, and at that point the tournament director can probably disqualify both of them, and that's fine. And that's it. It is what it is. Like, it's such a blatant attempt at cheating in such a bad way that they almost deserve to get thrown out.
Yeah, I think that more likely what would happen is the guy would call, and then the guy would show him the nuts, and the other guy would fold.
Right.
But yeah.
Even then, that's the one instance where if you felt like it, I guess that's what the rule is protecting. If you ask for the floor, would the floor want to look at that hand? Maybe he would. Maybe the floor would look at it and conceal.
Maybe the floor would look at it, yeah.
And not actually table the hand, but would look at it and go, no, I think this is it's a defensible play.
It's worthy. Yeah, it's worthy of the...
Right. The guy's got a pair of aces, and you go, well, hang on a second. That's probably not a 27 uncapped raises going back and forth.
Right. The guy is showing 3 queens on the board, and you can't beat it.
Correct. I would not be doing that, right? But maybe the guy's got quad eights, and other bro just rolls over a straight flush, and you go, okay, well, clearly that's what happened. But you and I talked about this before the show started, and then I'll shut up and we can go on to the next episode tomorrow. If you're in a heads-up situation where you are allowed to do the no cap on the betting rounds, at what point do you start thinking to yourself, do I want to rethink raising again here? Because one of 3 outcomes happens, and what are those 3 outcomes, Brandon?
You either misread your hand.
Correct.
He misread his hand.
Correct.
Or you both have the same hand, or you're chopping.
Or you're chopping, right? Meaning it's in a community board game or whatever. Obviously, if it's a 7-card stud tournament, that's probably not happening. But maybe it is. Maybe you both have ace, deuce, 3, 4, 5
9.
In Raz. There's no reason to raise 9 times against each other because you both have the nut hand. It's like, what are we doing here? You know?
Correct.
You're just wasting time and you're going to chop anyways. You misread your hand and you really don't have what you think you have. Or best case scenario, and really the only time where it works out in your benefit is that the other person misread their hand, which is actually what happened at a mixed games event at CCG during the mixed game series. The player just misread his hand and he was embarrassed. And then like other players want to like ridicule and jump in on it and be like, well, I think they were no, he wasn't chip dumping. He made a really bad mistake and he's really embarrassed.
And
about it.
And like, really, he didn't even misread his hand. He misread that he thought he had the nuts, but there was actually a hand that beat him.
Correct.
Which is even more innocent than misreading your hand.
Yeah, and by worse, I mean it's you're right. More innocent.
More innocent, yeah.
Correct.
Like, because he just, I thought I had pocket 7s. I didn't realize that a 9 was out there and 9's full beat me or whatever.
Correct.
You know, it's like, I thought I had the nuts with 7's full.
And sometimes
that's what it was. It ended up being a boat over boat.
Right.
But the guy thought that his boat was beating the other guy's boat.
He thought it was the nut boat. Yep. It wasn't.
Correct.
Sometimes you get tunnel vision. At that point, you should probably stop and go, all right, we've hit 7 bets between each other, meaning raise. At that point, you should go,
right, do I really think this guy's an idiot?
There's no reason, there's no disadvantage for me to double check my hand and go, yep, I got ace, king, queen, jack, 10, all hearts, royal flush. Let's go, raise. I also feel like that would incur the other player to go, well, hold on, maybe I should look at my hand. And then they look down and see what it is. Maybe they'll fold. Only good things can happen by double checking. Anyway,
so we like to give the benefit of the doubt to the ability to get a 5th or a 6th or a 7th or an 8. You know, if you cooler somebody nice, you get more than 4 bets.
I don't.
But it's
right.
Yeah. We don't need to protect the players from misreading their hand or chip dumping because that can happen in no limit. Extremely much easier.
Much easier.
Raise,
no
3-bet, 4-bet, all in, fold, muck. Okay, cool. Dumped. We'll never know.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's very much easier to dump chips at no limit.
Correct.
Than it is. So, and there's no rules to protect that.
Nope.
Per se.
Not definitive rules like that. Yep, I agree. I think it's a misjudgment in the powers that be of making that kind of ruling. It's like, we really don't need to do that. We would have been fine the other way. Just let them raise.
Especially if you're going to make it so they can raise heads up in the tournament. They can raise heads up. If they can do it at the end.
Do it away.
I mean,
right.
if you wanted to say they could never do it,
fine.
That's different.
Fine. I'd be okay with it. Fine.
Then you're just taking the ability of ever being more than 4 raises out of the game.
It's a
cool.
limit.
That's gone.
Right.
Sweet.
It's a limit tournament. You get a bet and
Bet
3
and 3
raises. That's it. It never changes at any point throughout the game. This is what limit poker is. Get used to it. I would go, okay, fine. I understand. Let's do that.
Sweet.
Makes it simple, But to have like a what if scenario seems kind of odd. Anyways, that's our rules, regulations, and Paradise Poker. Remember Paradise Poker, the online? Did you ever play Paradise?
I did play Paradise, yes, sir.
I think we all played at least somewhere, sometime.
You got to remember, man, even though I'm 10 years younger than you, I think I started earlier than you.
You did.
Like, we were 12 and 13 on the internet.
That's sick.
On Poker Room, and Party Poker.
Yeah, I was old enough to play everything.
I mean, we played them all.
I was old enough to play everywhere.
We were stealing our dad's credit cards and putting $50 on, and then claiming that, and then claiming it was fraud.
Yeah.
And then my dad's like, "It is fraud. I never touched it." I'm like, "I didn't touch it."
Fraud.
And still, I didn't get the money back. And then, I mean, for Christmas, I was like, "Dad, I don't want any presents. Just give me $250 on Poker Stars. That's all I want. I'm 14. I can do this."
I'm gonna run it up. I'm gonna run it up, baby. It'll be great. Anyways, thanks for listening to The Overlay, a poker podcast where we admit to crimes that are well outside of the statute of limitations. We talk about rules. We talk about poker. Lots of good stuff. We have been getting some new, I've noticed a lot of different parts of the country are kind of tuning into the show. So I do appreciate that. If you're a new listener, we do have well over 100 episodes in the back catalog. Check them out. They're all tons of fun. I personally enjoy each and every episode. Brandon, lead us out of here. And before we do, make sure to follow us on Twitter at The Overlay Pod. We are also on Instagram. I'm working on that as well. It's at The Overlay Pod. So on Instagram and Twitter now. Also on YouTube. So if you found us on YouTube, hit that subscribe button. Like us and share us with your friends. Other than that, Brando, lead us out of here.
All right, farewell. I got to get into work. I'm 38 minutes late.
Nice.
I'm not going to tell my boss.
Don't tell your boss, everybody. We'll see you next week. Bye.